Hi there, and welcome to Video on Demand. Today, Corey Pearson is going to show us how to do this cross-hatching on the computer, and it's a free pattern, and I'm real excited to see how you're going to do it. So tell us about this quilt.
So this quilt top was made for me by one of my students that I had in the class. Her name is Carol, and she was in my class, and then like the next week after, she brought this up to me as a thank you gift.
Whoa, it's hand done.
Yeah, hand embroidery, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So the pattern on it, I didn't want to take away from all that hand embroidery work, so I just decided to go with a simple crosshatch.
It's beautiful.
But crosshatching has always been something that has been scary to people that do Statler
work.
Yeah,
for the whole quilt. We can do a little part. But
right, yeah, but for the whole quilt, it kind of scares people, especially from the Statler side of it, because you're trying to make sure everything lines up and shrinkage and different things like that. So Paul Statler, the inventor of the Statler, showed me a technique a long time ago, and then I kind of took it to the next level with, as Joanne calls it, my college boy math.
Yes.
Oh, and so I added a little math to it to make it where it's really easy to set up, and then you just go in and fill in the gaps, and you're really, really going to like it.
Okay. I can't wait to see this math.
Well, let's get started.
Okay.
Okay, Linda, so the first step with any crosshatch, especially when you're doing it over the whole quilt, is to draw a boundary around what you want to start working with. So I'm going to go in with the head of my machine and go to draw boundary, and draw a boundary around the space that I want to quilt. Now, as you can see on the quilt, we've already done some quilting, but this is just the setup side of it. So I'm just going to draw my boundary around my quilt, and down the sides I might do a few more clicks just to make sure that I'm kind of staying where I need to. I'll come across the bottom here, and then I'll make my way back up. Alrighty. Once I get to the top, I'm going to close the drawing and exit the drawing, and then we get to come over to the computer and do a little bit of fun math with a setup. So in your pattern manager, this crosshatch pattern right here, 1427A hatch border 2, is one of the free patterns that comes with your machine. So I'm going to right click on this pattern and add it to my project, and then I'm going to come to my project tab, and here the pattern is. And when I'm doing my crosshatching, I like to do it in repeat patterns. So I'm going to come to repeat patterns, and I want to change this point type to upper left corner, and I'm going to left click in the upper left corner of my boundary, and it's going to place that pattern in there for me. Now, we need to know what the measurement is of our quilt, so our width and our height. And that's one thing I did forget to do. So I'm going to hit cancel real quick. I'm going to go to my measure tape, and I am going to left click on the left hand side of the boundary, and then left click on the right hand side of the boundary. And that's going to give me the width of the quilt. I'll also need to know my total length as well. So I'm going to right click and come back into repeat patterns, change my point type to upper left, and left click in the upper left hand corner. So from here I can go to my set total size, and I'm going to right click in the width section and transfer that width, and then I'm going to type in my total height, which I know the total length of this is 37, and I'm going to press enter, and that's going to place all those crosshatches on there for me. Now in Creative Studio 7 we have these little locks. So there's a lock right here to lock the total size. So I can change my repeats and my rows and stay locked into that total size. So I'm going to decrease these repeats quite a bit, and then decrease these rows as well. So then as I'm clicking, I can just kind of get to a size of crosshatch that I like. I'm going to go with that one right there. Okay?
That looks good.
So from right there, we have the setup part of it. Now, with normal crosshatching, you can actually flip these patterns vertically, and then they will all line up. But the problem is with shrinkage, as this is quilting across, you'll get to probably about halfway through the crosshatch, and none of these points will start to line up. None of them will line up. And so we found a way to kind of outsmart that. So the first thing that I want to do is lock my repeats and rows, And then I want to take note of my pattern height, not the total length of the quilt, but just the individual pattern height, which is 9.25. And then I'm going to come down to my calculator, which on our new Gammill computers, we have these little calculators down here. If not, you can pull out your smartphone.
I didn't even know there was a calculator there.
Yeah, right down there you got a calculator,
That's
so
awesome.
you can do some math.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to take this pattern height, which in this instance is 9.25. So I'm going to do 9.25. And I'm going to divide that by 3.5. And that's going to give me 2.64. And the reason that I'm dividing it by 3.5 is because if I look at my crosshatch pattern, I've got 1 full diamond, 2 full diamonds, 3 full diamonds, and then half of a diamond. So I'm going to divide that by 3.5. So that gave me the 2.64. And then I need to divide that answer by 2 because I want to find the spacing between 2 rows. So then I'll take that, divide it by 2, and my answer is 1.32.
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah. That's your answer. Now what?
So 1.32. So I'm going to exit out of my calculator and come down here to my vertical spacing, and I'm going to type in 1.32 and press enter.
Okay.
And it's going to space those patterns apart just like this. Okay? And once it's all spaced like that, you're actually ready to hit OK and then go straight to start quilting.
Wow. Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure. Okay?
Okay.
Reason being is because we want to stitch these 2 rows out, for instance, because that's in our quiltable area. So I want to stitch those 2 rows, and then we're actually going to go back in with the draw line, and we're going to click those points right here, right here, right here, after it's done stitching, and we've actually outsmarted shrinkage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And for this instance, we'll come back to this other quilt group because we've already started it on this quilt. And I've done all of this, and so I'm now here to this point, and I've actually already stitched this piece as well. Okay?
Okay.
So that's already stitched, and we're down here at the bottom of the quilt. So down here at the bottom of the quilt, we already have that spacing set in. And the only thing I need to do now is to connect these pieces. So I am going to go into draw line. And with the head of my machine, I am going to click these points. And I have my open toe foot on so I can see right to the stitching. So I'm going to click here, come down here and click this one, up here and click this one, down here and click that one. And I'm just going to click these points all the way across the quilt. And what's great about this is, like I was saying, we've kind of outsmarted shrinkage in this instance because everything is already stabilized around it.
I think you pretty well outsmart everything. Good
It's
job.
it's one way to really get through and do cross-hatching over the whole entire quilt and not be afraid of it.
That's terrific.
So then when I get to here, I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to hit close drawing and exit drawing. And then I want to make sure when I'm doing cross-hatching for sure that I have stitch and points on.
Oh, yes.
Because every one of these
yeah.
points, I want it to take another stitch to make sure it's extra sharp. So I can go back to my computer screen, and I can go to stitch, and then see stitch and points is off, so I'm going to left click on it, and that's going to turn it on.
Okay.
And then also while we're at the computer, you can see how much shrinkage has really taken effect. If we look on this pattern, this black line does not match up with any of this red stitching.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But that's just to show you how much shrinkage can really take effect.
Well, I know how much shrinkage. I've been telling people that for a long time. That's why we stabilize quilts.
Exactly. So we've got that ready, so we can go ahead and hit start quilting. Okay, and then remember, since we did this with draw line, it's going to go a little bit slower because that's how we have it set in our controller definitions. But all we have to do is just crank that speed up right here.
And it is stitching in the points. That's great.
And it's going to give you that perfect seamless crosshatch.
Yep. I may have to review the video to get the math again.
Also, once this is done, I do want to show you how you can, there is a way to set in a notes in your pattern so you'll never forget the formula. It's always going to be there in the notes of the pattern for you.
Oh, good. That would be very helpful. You know, this traditional crosshatch is just so beautiful. Never get tired of it.
Especially with this, now you can do it all the time and not have to worry about it.
There you go.
All the way
You
to the
handled
end.
it. Yeah.
So it's going to tie off, and then we can pull up our threads.
Okay. That was great, Corey. Now show me how you put that in the notes. So
Okay. So you'll always have it?
So I'll always have it.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to my Patterns tab. And this is the pattern that we were using. I'm going to right-click on the pattern and go to View Properties.
Okay.
Okay. So in the View Properties section, you can put notes and patterns. So I'm going to type in, I'm just going to give you a little shortcut for it. So when you're doing the formula, we're going to open up the parentheses, and we're going to do actual pattern height. So when we're doing the repeat patterns, it's that actual pattern height, divided by 3.5, close parentheses, and then divide that whole answer by 2.
Okay.
Okay? So I can hit Save and Close, and then whenever I'm in my repeat pattern setup box, this is another thing I love about CS7, is let me open up another quilt group for us. And whenever I'm in my repeat pattern setup box, let's click a random point here. So while you're still in this setup box, you can right-click on the pattern and view the properties right from the setup box, and there's your formula right there.
There's the formula.
So you don't ever have to remember it all the time. It's right there, ready for you to go, and you've got your answers, your actual pattern height right there as well. So you can get all that going and then put that in your spacing section.
Okay. Awesome.
What do you think?
What does APH mean again?
The actual pattern height.
Actual pattern height that you've chosen.
The actual height of the pattern in the pattern size box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
You got that?
Yeah.
Isn't it cool though? You can do that over a whole
It's just
entire
amazing.
quilt.
It is. I just have to have some notes.
Just a little bit of math.
Yeah,
You can
just a
send me a
little bit of math. Okay. Yeah, it would be a long one. I think I can do that. Thank you so much for watching, and continue to watch as we update all the time. And we appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.